The targets versus the actual reflects the transition from the old enrollment plan as agreed with DHET to the new enrollment plan that started in 2020. So a small shortfall was understood as with the DHET team as part of negotiating the transition between the old enrollment plan and the new enrollment plan. The next slide is just showing that in spite of all the challenges we faced as a university and as a country and as a higher education sector due to COVID, there's been a very small number of students who deregistered. In fact, this is so insignificant. We decided to put this to show that the university worked so hard to make sure that no learner was left outside the teaching and learning arrangement, as always encouraged by DHET. Now we move straight to what is required. The targets, the slide shows the targets for pass rates. Pass rates are about how successful are students in individual modules that they've registered for. We can see in this slide that in 2020, the success rate has been above the target. The target was 83%, and then the actual success rate was 85%. It's been a trend since 2019 and 2018. It's been growing all the time. So we were not significantly affected by the COVID-19 based on the inputs and the efforts of the university to make sure that students completed the academic year successfully. This repeats what has been presented in the previous slide, but it shows the success rates in CISM categories and faculties. And we can see actually that in all these we've performed largely above the targets and largely above the trend in the previous years in 2020. This is very encouraging because it's showing that this is our students who are graduating. So for 2020, it's students who are ready to graduate. We can see that instead of taking a dip after we've written exams and made assessment, we're expecting to graduate around 4,280 students or so. So the university has performed very well. Readiness for 2021 academic year. We started with registrations between the 1st and 19th of March for the first-time entering students and returning students. Because of the circumstances, and we know the turmoil that exists in the country, we've extended the registration period to make sure that we create an opportunity to bring in as many students as possible in line with our targets. We will have an orientation for first-year students scheduled for the 23rd to the 27th of March. And this year, the focus is really on preparing undergraduate students to acquire more skills on multimodal learning platforms and arrangements and how to use devices, because we realize that the face-to-face is still being challenged by the current situation of COVID. Commencement of teaching and learning is scheduled for the 29th of March for first-time entry students, 15th of March for returning students, and the university has provided data for teaching and learning to all registered students who are supposed to now be embarking, especially the returning students, in the teaching and learning activities. For postgraduate students, the faculties have set up online seminars to make sure that students are given an opportunity to present their work and there is engagement. Now I'm going to hand over to Mr. Mwango, who will speak to the infrastructure.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Infrastructure is one of our key priorities. The university has a duty to look after its existing infrastructure and that which we intend to build over the coming years. So we do have a spatial vision, your spatial development framework that has been developed, which is our point of reference in respect of what projects we want to do in the current as well as in the future. Out of the special framework comes, a comprehensive project list made up of projects of buildings to refurbish and new projects to construct. And we have priorities for the current year, 2021. And out of that, obviously there would be long-term projects as well, because there is a limit in terms of what projects we can do in one financial year. So if you look at our special framework long-term, you'll actually see where we are, where we want to go, and what our priorities are over a long period of time. We've completed our strategy for procurement. Initially, we thought July last year will be the date on which we launch the comprehensive infrastructure upgrade for the university. That did not happen because obviously the previous year was not particularly a good one from your pandemic point of view. We've had to revise this severally as well, because out of the lockdown and the experience of what we went through as a country, the pandemic and its influence overall in terms of, infrastructure and priorities and the sector as a whole had to be revisited, those targets, they had to be revisited in line with the challenges that we experienced at the time. So here you see evidence of what we intending to do. I mean, the student accommodation in particular will be our biggest in terms of what work we want to do. So we have, for the current year, for example, in excess of 10 priority areas that we want to implement. And you'll find that student accommodation is one of the biggest in terms of our focus, because that's been the area where we have the biggest challenge, making sure that all the students that come to our university and enroll for programs do find adequate accommodation. It's not been easy, but we're doing all we can to ensure that we meet our students halfway, and even, opening up space for other, private providers as well to come in and assist to help us deal with the challenge of student accommodation. We have a student center. Of particular interest is the engineering building in Richards Bay. Chair, you'll know that the university got accredited last year to offer engineering programs. We are already, doing some work to plan for the future of the Richards Bay campus, but the engineering launch has added a much greater focus for us to move with speed to ensure that the first phase of that building that we are earmarking to build there, which will accommodate the majority of our programs, the construction begins in August this year. We also, targeting to make sure that we do conversions of various, buildings for purposes of adding to the capacity for us to have sufficient accommodation for conference facilities. We also, doing an upgrade of our university entrance is one that represents an opportunity for us just to improve the look and feel of the university from the perspective of someone visiting to be, able to project the kind of image and status of the university in adequate measure to help and enhance its reputation as well. And, the accessibility and promoting the kind of image that we want to project for the university. The next slide will also then show several other projects that we're earmarking, all of them this year. So if you see 2021 here, it's because it's all projects we're projecting to build starting this year. They will go on for at least another 3 years. The long term, though, will see us, going as far as 20 years from now to complete the backlog of infrastructure projects that we've not been able to do over a period of time. And we, in earnest, beginning to make sure that we move to support the vision of the university to expand and become much more user-friendly in terms of facilities, for your disabled student, for example. We're making sure that the university does respond adequately in respect of, the adequacy of our overall infrastructure needs. The next slide will show that, we've not really been operating in an environment without risks. The lockdown over a period of time has obviously had an impact in terms of us being able to do the things we've wanted to do. But we are geared to ensure that none of these risks stand in our way to be able to see the things that we want to see. The procurement process, for example, got delayed, but we've been able to move milestone after milestone to a point where we have certainty that, notwithstanding the delays and the 2020 challenges, we finally are able to project a timeline for the delivery of some of these projects, as you saw in the previous slides. The disruptions are enormous. I mean, as you peruse the media, your various media outlets, you'll see that, the disruptions have not stopped. We have been experiencing some of these lately in respect of lack of water and all of that in the area of Mhlathuze. And these things will continue to happen. I think our challenge is making sure that working with these, we're able to mitigate the effects and continue to do the work that we need to do as far as it is possible. Of course, taking into account all of these matters as we proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The last few slides focuses on tuition fees, NSFAS, audit and finances, and then financial matters regarding registration. So, Chair, it's a historical fact that the University of Zululand are very low when compared to other universities. We've did an analysis of which the next slide I will explain. But for the university to fulfill its responsibilities towards its stakeholders and to remain financially sustainable, there is a need to review the fee baseline of the university. So in the next slide, you'll see, Chair, that in terms of the different faculties, we've compared to the different universities our fees, and we are in the different faculties between 29% and 68% behind what other universities on average are charging in terms of fees. In terms of postgraduate students, we are even further behind, Chair. Honourable Chair, in terms of NSFAS, we've got we had in 2020, 13,100 NSFAS funded students, other government funded students, 1,200, and then other sponsors, which means they are not necessarily fully funded. We had 1,100 students, meaning we had a total number of funded students of 15,400, which is 90% of the 17,100 students of the university, more or less. And Chair, then in terms of 2020 appeals, we had 1,854 appeals, of which we were able to facilitate 1,400 of them successfully with NSFAS, and they were approved by NSFAS. Chair, in terms of the audit and finances, the 2019 audit was an unqualified audit opinion. We are currently busy with the 2020 audit, and it is scheduled for reporting on the 30th of June, as per reporting regulations. In terms of the budget versus actual, 2020, our income actual was a little bit more than budgeted, and our expenditure was a little bit less than budgeted. Our actual expenditure for 2021, the University Council approved the break-even budget, but it did include a few budget adjustments or cuts that was necessary in the different operational environments to make sure that it balances. Chair, I can confirm that the university is in a sound financial position, but the risk of the COVID-19 related impact on income and expenditure remains. And then lastly, Chair, in terms of the registration 2021, students are not at the University of Zululand are not required to make a minimum initial payment to register. All 2021 confirmed funded students register regardless of outstanding debt. And Chair, as per council resolution, payment plan arrangements are made for unfunded students, and we have with outstanding debt, and we have implemented very successfully this strategy in the past to ensure access for students. And Chair, then as part of the multimodal approach to teaching and learning, we have also laptops available for all first years. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. Are you able to hear me there? Chair, I can see you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Honorable Chair, you are audible enough.
Okay. I think there was something wrong because earlier on, just before you handed over to the Vice Chancellor, I wanted to address something, but I could pick up that you were not able to hear me. So I just let it go and allow everybody else so that we don't have to interrupt you. But otherwise, thank you very much. You can make your concluding remarks and then we will take the students now.
Chair and honorable members, that's the presentation that we have done to you, guided by the issues that you submitted to us. And I must say that if we had time, there are many good stories that we would have shared with you in trying to drive the agenda of transformation and ensuring that our University of Zululand is a fully comprehensive university that is able to serve the interests of the society and our country. So we are in your hands, Chairperson. At the correct time will be guided in terms of questions of clarity if honorable members have things they wanted to ask. Lastly, Chair, I must indicate that, of course, there are issues that we have touched on, which are being attended by the university. And I want to assure you that we are interested in having our university being inclusive to all stakeholders, including unions. And there's process, there are engagements of ensuring that people have access to the university in terms of recruitments, and that what we did not indicate to you is that even though we don't have a recognized union in the university in terms of the Labor Relations Act, but there is a forum that was established by the management and approved by the university to ensure that workers from time to time are consulted on issues that pertain to them. So with those words, Chairperson, we want to conclude our report and say thank you so much for affording us this opportunity. We know the responsibility of oversight and we are in your hands. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, the Chair of Council, and thanks to all the presenters. I think we will invite now the student leadership to make their presentations, and after which we are going to open up for members. Do we have the SRC leadership in the house? SRC, are you there?
I think they must just unmute themselves, Chair. They are there. Yes.
Okay.
Honorable Chair,
All
thank
right.
you very much. We are present.
Yeah, I've handed over to you. You must just position your camera properly so that we can see you, and then introduce the delegation and then take us through your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah, you can continue. Look, as you position your screen properly, I see you are moving there. Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you actually. We can see you. So just continue. I don't know whether you are the president or the SG, but just take us through your presentation so that we don't have to waste any more time. We are supposed to be done by 12:30 because there's another engagement for other members of this portfolio committee.
Okay,
Over
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairperson. And honorable members, you are greeted at large. My name is Wiseman. My surname is Nazel. My surname is Kumag, who happens to be the SRC coordinator. On my slide here, I'm having the interim SRC overview. I'll start there, Chairperson.
Okay, start by introducing other members of the interim SRC.
I'm also accompanied by the convener, who happens to be the president, Undumiso Jangas, Mukaz Jangas. But we are having technical issues here. You will just come.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. The interim SRC is a composition of different political formations. Formations with an aim to represent students. As we are preparing to elect an SRC in the academic year 2021. The interim SRC embarked on numbers of consultation with both student political formations and students in general, with the intention to the best representation of students. This task has not been easy due to COVID-19. No physical meetings took place, but as a structure, we are adopting to the new normal. The interim SRC uses social and media platforms, including Zoom and other platforms, to engage on robust debates on the matters of students in the institution. As a multi-party formation, which by virtue of our design, our structure is transparent and open to the university student community. On the state of student affairs, the SRC interim has ensured that all student structures are in place from faculty level to increase the voice of students in different levels. The interim SRC has participated in the draft of the Constitution with the aim to ensure an SRC by the student is elected. The relationship of the management and the SRC, it is as that of robust nature, where issues are canvassed to ensure that a compromise is achieved. The interim SRC, in the next 3 months, ensure that students, leaders across faculties and sport codes and student housing are elected to execute their role and functions to ensure the voice of students is represented and at an operational level. On student accommodation, this remains a national issue as we discuss with other SRCs on SAUs. It is important for us to note that our geographical location plays a crucial role in our outsourcing strategy. The fact that we are located in Guadalangezwa, it makes it difficult to find location sustainable external accommodation. The university accommodation, it accommodates about 6,000 students, while it has an intake of 17,000 plus or minus students. The university and the interim SRC is looking in the meantime for more outsourced residencies. The university has started with one of its biggest infrastructure projects of constructing more residencies, which will increase an additional of 6,000 beds, while the project is still on the pipeline and many students are suffering. The off-campus residents, often referred to as imkash, are in terrible living conditions particularly around safety. Many students are victims of crime around KwaDlangezwa campus. This is because, Chairperson, of this is because of leakage or a problem that we have at KwaDlangezwa campus. We are having many students and we are having a shortage of accommodation on campus, of which on campus safety is not compromised than off campus. Then we are engaging with other people to make sure that even those off campus, where our off campus residences, which are referred as imqash, are safe. We are engaging with police stations and with the community and with everyone to make sure that our students, they are living there in a safety condition. Now, on teaching and learning during lockdown, teaching and learning, it is the core function that an institution of higher learning, and as such, this task being carried out with due diligence. This task has not been easy by the university and the SRC itself. Worked together to improve, to provide laptop and data and the delivery of materials to students as a supporting system, especially to those who are coming from deep disadvantaged communities. As we all know that the University of Zululand, it is located at KwaDlangezwa campus. So mostly we cater for students who are coming from a very critical and disadvantaged background, of which now it was not easy for us to make sure that they participate in their academic activities. But engaging with the management, we met each other halfway. Now they tried they assisted us with laptops, including data, and they delivered in the deep communities, especially for those who are coming from Wanongoma, Umsinga, and other external places. This process was not smooth, but we have learned a lot on it. As students come from different backgrounds, where network coverage has been the issue, we have worked together to return those students while also observing the health protocols. The computer literacy levels of students plays a crucial role in the participation of the e-learning materials. Hence, the establishment of it helps desk and the delivering of material. It is part of our broader strategy. First-year students, whom some have worked on a computer, suffer greatly in the e-learning. During the lockdown, and the different methods were used to assist those students. Our recommendation, we are convinced as the interim SRC that most of first years must be on campus. So as they get computer literacy training, this must be done with a speed and agency as the COVID-19 third wave is upon us. This has already been a case with other countries in Africa. For an example, Kenya. The other part I'll give it to, okay. The national funding allowances. The interim SRC is aware that first-year students have not been cleared for funding, and the university took a joint decision to waive a registration fee for all qualifying students. This is both historical and the advantage of students. We would therefore thank the management for allowing such an act, which is progressive, to register all first years without paying any cent. We are aware that returning students will receive their allowances as per the norm, and no problem has been conveyed thus far. NSFAS, however, need to get their house in order. We also request through you, Chair, and the stretch their engagement with the university about the approved students so that they allow the university to distribute allowances in time. That is our plea. The delay by NSFAS on its process will compromise the relationship between students and the university. Because as we speak currently, NSFAS is sending lists from week to week, of which is delaying the process. Other students, they want to study and continue with their academic activities. On the state of readiness for 2021, it must be known that we have started in a positive note with the management in the academic year of 2021, where the management has agreed to allow all first years, after robust engagement, to register irrespective of whether they are being funded or not. We are also working together on the teaching and learning strategy to ensure that no student is left behind. As indicated, the interim SRC will ensure that structures are in place to increase the loud of student voice. The academics, as we speak, we are preparing to start, and we are ready to service our students. We must take a stock of lessons from our 2020 academic year to better prepare and excel in the academic year 2021. There will always be a difference of opinion, but we are gratefully to every pillar of the university and has worked with us. Notably, it was not easy, as often had this disagreement, but we appreciated our professional differences. The root of healthy relationship between management and the SRC is the mutual respect and inclusive of participation in decision making which affects students. I thank you very much, Chairperson. That was our presentation. I will also give it to the President so that the President will conclude.
Greetings are extended. Mine will be very short after the coordinator have spoken. In fact, I will touch on a few issues which I think they are critically affecting the University of Zululand. The image that has been portrayed is not what University of Zululand is. That image is portrayed by certain individuals, especially who are not students, who are not staff members, but who've got their agenda, which reflects bad on the image of the university. The reason why I'm saying this, Chair, is the same university that they are destroying is the university that will give us qualification to go and look job opportunities so that we can go back to our families and play a crucial role in making sure that we provide them. Now, if they destroy the image of this institution, they are affecting us directly. So we have no apology to do not say such things in such platforms. Chair, as maybe you are familiar in terms of what has been happening in media platforms whereby University of Zululand have been criticized. In fact, most of the things have been happening, and in fact, this is my second term on the SRC. I was the deputy president before. There were many attacks on the university. But when you look at the achievements that the university have made, they are not being publicized in media, in any platforms. But those cooked stories, they are all over the country. Now I'm saying this so that you can intervene, because we know we are students and we know some of these things. And we've got many people who come to us to engage us to fight against the university. In fact, they even promised us big things so that we can attack the VC, we can attack the council members, especially the chairperson of the council, because we don't know why they are doing this. So we'd like the portfolio committee to intervene, especially politicians who are within the university, who come to students, then they do things so that they can achieve their own personal interest, and knowing that what they are doing, it's destroying the university. In fact, there are many things that have been said. I would like your office chair to go through and see, because it is not correct that when rumors are being said, you only listen to one side and you conclude without listening to both sides. And number three, if there are things that have been said by the University of Zululand, if such group is honest, why they are only focusing on the negativity? But there are many things, there are many departments that have been accredited. There are many new departments, especially engineering, but no one is saying that. And there are many people who are doing well in the country who've been produced by this institution, and no one is doing that. But what they are doing, they are busy saying negative things. Now, it shows that there's something wrong there. Now, what we do not want to do as the SRC is to take sides, Chair. We represent students. Now, when we represent students, we need to make sure that we represent students honestly. Now, we need also to make sure that we protect the image of this institution so that when they finish their qualifications, they go out to search for job opportunities with a good and clean image of the institution. So such stories, fake stories, they are affecting us. So I need the portfolio committee to intervene there. Most of the issues that we are facing at University of Zululand are national issues. The issue of NSFAS, it's a national issue. Every university is suffering. As we speak, we are coming from Pretoria. Most universities were complaining. NSFAS is a crisis to all universities. Issue of accommodation, it's a national issue. Every institution, they are complaining. Our disadvantage as University of Zululand in terms of accommodation is you can't compare us with universities who are located in urban areas. Let's make an example, UKZN. There you can outsource the residences, outsource residences easy. But when you come to Mpangeni, it's a rural-based area whereby even if the university is willing to go and hard, that is why the university has taken an initiative to say, even though we understand this disadvantage that we have, but let's make a plan and see what we can get. Let's convert those private accommodations that meets the norm and standard of NSFAS into an outsourced residencies. Let's go around Pangen, around Richards Bay, if there are places whereby we can get accommodation that meets standard and norms. But even though it's not easy because of the location of the area. Number three, you see, I was also attending another meeting, South meeting, whereby every president and SG of universities were addressing their frustration. During lockdown, firstly, we need to admit that no one was prepared for lockdown. No one knew that in this time would be affected by COVID-19. So it happens as a surprise to all of us. But even though the University of Zululand was amongst the university who provided laptops, who provided data, who also went further to say, because we understand there are students who are suffering from, let's say, connectivity, they can't access network very clear as compared to others. They've decided to deliver a study material. Months later, I saw NUT adopting the same strategy from UniZulu. Now, those are the things that they are not being said. But I understand one of the things that was a norm at University of Zululand.
Can I interrupt you, please? Okay. I thought you were going to make some concluding remarks, but it appears as if you're giving us another presentation. I'm even worried about social distancing between the two of you there, because we are living in a situation where we are still at alert level 1. There are regulations, there must be social distancing, wearing of mask and all of that. And my worry is that social distancing is not practiced where you are now. But I understand that you're using one gadget, but you still have to comply with the regulations on alert level 1. But you are now over the time allocated for you to make your own presentation. I think the two of you should have met and agreed on what should be on the presentation, so that whatever that is being read out as your presentation covers both of you. But I've taken note of the emphasis that is made about people. I would have loved to get who are those people, because we don't know. We don't remember, we don't we don't stay in the area of where UniZulu is located, so we are not aware of the people who are going around spreading negativity about the institution. So I thought you would get straight to the point, but you kept on talking in parables, but it's fine. Let's leave it at this one. You will come back probably and supplement your submissions. I'm going to open for members to engage with the presentations. I'm sure members have been taking some notes. Just a couple of few things from my side as I open for members. I think I must thank the chairperson of council on behalf of the entire council, as well as management led by the Vice Chancellor, for preparing such a comprehensive overview of governance and management of the university. I think the presentation has done justice to the areas that we have sent you to cover. But what I think I took special note on is the extent to which the university has embraced a strategic approach that was developed by the department together with the entire sector of responding to the impact of COVID-19 which was to introduce a multimodal system of learning and teaching. Most universities were grappling in embracing this system, but I think UniZulu did well in implementing this approach, in distributing the learning materials to all the sites that identified. I think you spoke about 59, if I'm not mistaken. And academics getting involved in the process of distribution of the learning materials to the learners, and the introduction of the online learning, and the acquisition, buying of laptops, providing data for students. I think that is remarkable, and I think we must give credit where it is due. We appreciate that, and I think even the student leadership did express their view on this. I think the university did well in this multimodal system. We have had engagement with other universities. They are struggling, but it looks like UniZulu found it. They found the perfect formula on introducing this subject, this approach, together with working with other institutions like UNISA and so forth, as you did indicate, Vice Chancellor. For me, that was impressive, because it has always been the view of the sector, including ourselves, that no student must be left behind as the sector concludes the 2020 academic year. We know that it has been extended in others, and I think even in UniZulu. But I think you did well. The second area that I think impressed me also is the success rates, the student success rates in terms of the pass rates. For the 3 years that we have identified, 2018, 2019, 2020, I think the pass rates is slightly above the target. And I think I saw the target of 80, 81 in different faculties. But I think you are doing well there. On infrastructure, which is a challenge to many institutions that we have visited in the past, that we have dealt with, infrastructure remains a challenge. And I think you did note, Chairperson, that there was some issue that was raised in the past. And I think it was during the period when the university was, when there was an assessor appointed who raised an issue around infrastructure. But the presentation, as I've seen it now, makes UniZulu a construction site. There is a number of construction packages that has been shared with us. And I think it was at a high level. I'm not sure whether all the previous infrastructure projects were implemented on time and on the budget that has been allocated, or whether there are still some outstanding infrastructure projects. But the one that we received, I think it was looking very impressive. There is an issue around tuition fees, which you say are the lowest. I see on the one hand, the tuition fees are the lowest compared with the other universities, but the university continues to do well in financial management. The clean audit that you received, quite impressive. The financial position is quite sound. So it looks like you are doing well in managing the issues there. And I think the fact that the university took a decision to allow all the students to be registered irrespective of the the debt they owe to the university, I think is commendable and it must be welcome. Because often that is a source of conflict between the students and the university. And as you know that currently the country is experiencing instability within the sector in higher education. There are a couple of protests throughout. And I don't know if UniZulu is one of the universities which is experiencing protest. You will tell us that, but the SRC did indicate that they are quite happy. So I think this might account largely to the relative stability that might be experienced as a result of flexibility, because that's what you need. You need a leadership that is flexible to the demands of the students, such that you don't have to be rigid when the students raised issues, in particular this one around admission. You are able to be a bit more flexible. So I'm picking up a good story from UniZulu. I would like the president at some point probably to elaborate on the negative things, because I don't know of any. It hasn't been brought to our attention. So I would very much like to have that view from the students, what they are making a very bold assertion here. And so I would like them to elaborate on that. But the issue which concerns me is the absence of the trade unions in campus. I know that the chairperson says there is a bargaining forum that has been established, but I don't know what are the reasons for the absence of the trade unions. I'm sure that the trade unions that operate within the sector might be having enough members for them to be recognized as a trade union representing the workers in the university. But I don't know what are the reasons that is not the case. But otherwise, let me open for members. I see Honorable King and Honorable Litzie's hands are up. So we'll take both of you, starting with Honorable King and then Honorable Litzie, then Honorable Mananiso, and then Honorable Numalo, Umamsbiya, and lastly Honorable Mkacho. In that order, 6 members. Let's just that just before that, sorry, Honorable King, it's now almost 10:35. I think we will open an hour for members to engage, and then we will allow another hour to get responses from the University Council. By 12:30, we should be done. Okay, Honorable King.
Good morning, everyone on the platform. Yes, Chair, I also would like to echo your sentiments when it comes to the readiness of the university. And what you can see, they are really well prepared to see this year through, and it's really commendable. So I also would like to extend our commendability towards them. Then I just have a few clarity seeking questions. The first one, the university provided the laptops and the data. I just needed to find out, was there any engagement with regards to the allocation of laptops from the National Students Financial Aid Scheme? Did you have discussions around them with that? Or are they going to refund you on the allocations that you made? Then I'm very grateful when I see most of the students will be allowed to register irrespective if they owe money. But I need to find out, how are you going to handle the debt crisis at the university? What is your outstanding debt from students? And how are you managing your acknowledgement of death agreements with regards to the student fees? You are gladly, I'm also happy you said you're going to have engineering students. When will they actually start with the new engineering program at the university? And if you've done an analysis to find out what percentage of students of the general university will then actually now embark on the engineering program that will be phased in. What percentage of your first years that are coming in, what type of qualifications do most of them actually embark on? Because I'm very interested, and the reason for this question is you would find that at most universities, first year students all would probably just go for a BCom HR. They would all cluster in that, leading then in later years that you have this unemployment rate increasing. So this year, I would just like to find out from your university, have you made an analysis to find out which of the qualifications or degrees do they mostly go in for? Your dropout rate is very low, but I just needed to find out what measures have you put in place to get in touch with those that have actually dropped out. And the last question is, we've seen that there's a 24.6 shortfall in allocation to university budgeting from National Treasury, which they've given the Department of Higher Education. So from your point of view, did you receive your allocation? Is there going to be a budget shortfall? And how will you mitigate that shortfall, should there be any? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable King. I think it's Honorable Litsie.
Yes, no, thank you very much, Chairperson, and I would like to welcome the presentation from the university. Indeed, they came with a very unique hybrid arrangement. We just hope that I see most of them are wearing masks. I hope that they've got a, they are following, safety protocols there. I see there towards the corner, there might not be necessary social distancing, but it might be the camera angle. But I want to thank them for a report that they prepared. Well, I want to start, Chairperson, with the Council for Higher Education Assessment of 2017, which the minister at the time, was the current minister again, Dr. Bladin Zimande, asked the Council for Higher Education to do an assessment, a full assessment on a variety of issues with or at the university. And one of the issues that the Council for Higher Education concluded on, which is obviously something that I think some of us who studied in one of the universities at KZN would have always known that the university has always been riddled with a media coverage portraying it as an institution with qualification fraud and
maybe if you can switch off your video, because we're experiencing connectivity challenges now. Try and save your bandwidth by switching off your video. Can you hear me, Honorable Litsie? Okay, let's move to Honorable Mananiso. We will come back to Honorable Litsie.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Let me firstly welcome the presentation. One must say that I'm covered in terms of acknowledging the progression by the leadership and governance in the institution. I have only 2 questions. My questions is with regard to gender representativity, and I want to comment the fact that the university has women leadership, the chair and the vice chancellor, and I want to say that they need to be supported, because at times when institutions are led by women, more especially in places like KZN, you would see resistance from the other side of gender going other way. So I just want to say that we need to support them as the portfolio committee and as well as stakeholders in that particular institution. Chairperson, my question regarding the gender representativity of the council members is if they do apply the equity plan, and if so, why do they have 10 executive members and only 2 positions are occupied by women, which is the VC and DVC for teaching and learning? So I just want, that is what I wanted to ask on the leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mananiso. Babu Numal.
Thanks, Chair, and good morning to you. Good morning to the honorable members, the Chairperson of Council, and the Vice Chancellor of the University, honorable members of the SRC, the coordinator and the convener of the SRC. Maybe, Chair, let me begin by joining you in commending the presentation that has been presented before us by the Chairperson of Council and his team and her team. You know, Chair, it is very unlikely that you will go to an institution and find members of the SRC agreeing with the executive or the leadership of the institution. Now, this tells you that, you know, historically, the University of Zululand has been an institution that comes from a background where you will find demonstrations almost every year when the academic year commences. And the protest in University of in Zululand, they can be something else, Chair. I can tell you from experience. I've been there. I've seen. So when we've got a leadership that can foresee that kind of chaos and try to put it to a halt by actually, and Chair, I think must also commend them for actually allowing students to register with their historical debt, because seemingly it is what has made all the institutions across the country, we see demonstration is mainly because of the historical debts and asking for a basic percentage in order for students to register. I think that should be commended, Chair. But also let us just bring back the question as to how does the institution intend to recoup some of the monies that are owed to it by students, whether funded or unfunded by NSFAS or other institutions. Because you know that, Chair, right across the country, there's about 10 billion rands that is owed by students and former students to the departments and the institutions. I don't know whether if the executive or the council chair can be specific as to how much is owed by students to the institutions, and will that not only affect the workers? Because I listened to a program yesterday, Chair, saying that if we do not collect this kind of monies and institutions continue registering as we demand it to continue, because the free education was promised to our students, and they must actually get it as per the promise, because government made a commitment unprovoked of free higher education. But this puts the lives of the workers at risk. And also, Chair, let me marry my question to the e-learning strategy, whether how far will it affect the workers, particularly those who are working on campus, lecturers, because the possibility is that if we cannot collect revenue, if we do not need sufficient people in the institution, some workers might have to be laid off. So, Chair, I just wanted to know whether they've got a plan to recoup that money, and how will they manage not collecting that revenue. And Chair, I think I'll want to pause there, but commend, Chair, lastly, the SRC and the council for having a good relationship. I know that students, when they are demanding, mainly when members of the SRC agree with management, I also get worried as a former student leader. Because if we had not got the report from the council that is convincing, I would have got really worried about the student representation in that particular institution. But taking from what we have learned from the institution report, I think it might be a relationship that will assist the students of University of Zululand, Abantwana Basongoye. This is the institution that is very close to us, which we want to see students coming from that university progressing and actually making a big contribution to the rest of this country and the leadership of this country as well. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngumalo. I see Honorable Tsia is not yet back. So let's move to Mamsbia. Mamsbia.
Thanks, Chairperson. Thanks for your presentation from UniZulu officials. Thank you so much. Indeed, as the Chairperson has been said, there is a good story to tell there. There is a team spirit. But I'm covered in most questions, except to say the coordinator said there were difficulties during the distribution of the laptops in different areas. What were those challenges? Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mkacha.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to colleagues from UniZulu and to honorable members on the platform. And one must truly indicate their gratitude to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee for taking upon the report that came from our visit to UniZulu last year, I think 2nd of November, and appreciate the proactiveness from colleagues from UniZulu's management and governance in terms of providing a written report from the discussions we had during that oversight. One truly appreciates that. Chair, I want to agree with Honorable Ngumalo that it's very rare that an SRC can be in agreement with management, and some of the concerns that he alludes to in terms of that particular relationship being a productive one. You'll think that maybe the SRC is not as progressive as it should be, but I think what this particular relationship that we witness at UniZulu between the SRC and management is what we would love to see across the sector, Chair, where there is ongoing consultation between students and management, and of course students represented by the SRC. And I mean, it's testament, Chair, to our views around us really as a sector working hard to ensure that students don't have to resort to protest action, because institutions of higher learning are spaces that are meant to be conducive for teaching and learning, and not be spaces where students have to, or even staff have to continuously raise their frustration through student protests or through protest. And also, of course, noting the opportunism that then comes from society or individuals or whoever it may be, during those moments where people are genuinely raising their concerns, yet others want to then use those moments for their own ulterior motives. So we truly appreciate the healthy relationship we see between the SRC and management. I don't think the SRC lacks to be critical of management and lacks to be critical of the issues that is faced by the institution, but I think there's a level of proactiveness from both sides that one truly appreciates. And I think then one would immediately want to appreciate the efforts by management to and I'm sure this was done in consultation with the SRC, to allow returning students to register, taking into consideration possible debt that they may have. And I think you've also removed the registration fee. And I think those are really progressive concessions that you have made. But to then go back to what Honorable Nxumalo then says, yes, this will assist us in the immediate in terms of ensuring that students have access to higher education, have access to the institution, but in terms of, you know, the sustenance of the institution's finances, you know, it is concerning, Chair. And I think beyond this particular institution, we need to make sure as the portfolio committee that we hold the department accountable, or we play a monitoring role over various institutions and their ability to be financially sustainable as we make various concessions to ensure access to education for students. And I also want to, like Honorable Litie, appreciate the innovative way in which management has met today. I think it's testament to the kind of work that you want to do at your Richards Bay campus in terms of, you know, it being an innovative space, of course, but we do really want to advocate for social distancing and ensuring that various COVID protocols are followed in the space in which you're meeting in. I'd like to know, with regards to, I mean, some of your popular courses are nursing science. Can I just know or note whether there were some changes that were made to certain qualification code changes that were made to nursing qualifications, education qualifications, and engineering qualifications, where the legacy qualifications were phased out, and then therefore there was a change in the code, and that affected how NSFAS then disperses its bursaries to your students. And some students were affected by certain institutions registering students on the old codes for these particular disciplines. Can I just note if you have had that particular problem, or if you were able to phase those legacy codes out in time to make sure that the students then register on the new qualification codes? I hope I'm making sense. And then I'd like to ask, with regards to the Marshall Plan to overhaul the university in terms of the challenges that it's currently faced, do you think as an institution you've been, and this refers to various recommendations that were made by the independent assessor as well as CHE, do you believe as the current chair of council and as well as the vice chancellor that you've been able to your best of ability, follow through the recommendations that were made? And where do you think, I mean, we see the report, but I just want, you know, an analysis. Where are the areas in which you believe you should improve on? In terms of compliance to the submission of annual reports and audited financial statements, is there an indication that you've been able to improve in terms of this? There was also a great concern around large numbers of vacancies. Can I just have a clarification on the amount of vacancies that you currently have at the institution? And then, Chair, I'm trying my best to round up. When we had met in November, I mean, you presented, and you presented them again, an indication of how you've been able to truly try your best to respond to the new style of teaching and learning in terms of, I guess, a hybrid or remote learning system. I did raise a concern around two portals that you had, and I had asked you if you were able to merge them going into the future, and so in terms of merging the student administrative portal that you had and merging the one that you were working on in terms of teaching and learning in particular. Have there been any developments with regards to that? And then generally, I'd like and this is now in relation to the academics, and I think the pass rates speak a lot to it. The pass rates do indicate that students have done better, but I think from a coping perspective, would your academic staff truly feel as though the continuous assessment method is working for them, or are they struggling with rolling out this particular particular method. I mean, yes, I see the pass rates have gone up, but executing it, in particular could be challenging, even though the pass rates have gone up. And then I just like confirmation that you are indeed rolling out the engineering programs for the academic year 2021. And then in terms of accommodation at the institution, I mean, you had shared a lot about the challenges that you were having there, and you've been very transparent about them. And one did get to see some of the auxiliary support that you're getting from the community with members of the community building accommodation around your main campus, and there are a lot of disparities in those in the standard of those accommodation buildings that are outside of the institution. And what progress have we been able to make in terms of being able to standardize the kind of quality or criteria that then is there in terms of the kind of accommodation that's built around the institution? You also mentioned that there were conversations that you were having with traditional leadership around the area on this matter. What progress have we been able to make in relation to that? Can I confirm that on the 3rd of December 2020, you held the Src elections? I just want to understand that the Src we're engaging today is not the interim Src, but the newly elected Src. Can I just have a confirmation of that, please? And then, of course, the chair has raised the concerns around the unions, the challenges between management and unions. But I think when I was last there, some of the challenges were in relation to a union that wasn't registered. And have we been able to assist that union in finding stability? And then, of course, I mean, you can try your best to get away with the rotten apples, but there'll always be one or two lingering. But how are we generally feeling in terms of being able to manage some of the matters that led to a distrust of the institution with regards to the altering of student marks and the tampering with administration requirements? What's the feeling at the moment from the Vice Chancellor? Do you feel as though the people that you have in your institution are those that are not compromising the ethical, nature of the institution in terms of, marks being altered and admissions being tampered with? And what mechanisms have you put in place to ensure that that particular reoccurrence is then mitigated? There was a suggestion that the VC should set up a forensic investigation on the functions of the cooperatives at the university, as well as the company, which had links to some council members, and report back to the committee on this. This was after the oversight that the portfolio committee in 2017 did. Was that done? Was the VC able to set up that particular forensic investigation in relation to that? Of course, we would love to see an increase in terms of gender representation across various spectrums, but we do appreciate the analysis that has been given by the institution. And we continue to really, Chair, I think, elaborate the importance of us ensuring that when women are at the forefront of leading institutions, they must be given all the support that they needed. And I think the portfolio committee must be a place in which everybody, of course, must feel as though they can come and ventilate their concerns and challenges in executing their responsibilities. But I really want to then emphasize the importance of women, youth, and previously and currently what's the word I'm looking for? Not disadvantaged, but those of us who generally turn to face a lot of challenges in the sector. This space as the portfolio committee must be a safe space for us. You refer on one of your slides as being able to be flexible to accommodate different learning styles. What does that look like? Because what if you were to explain to me the different learning styles in which you've been able to accommodate during this past examination period, what would that look like? It's very easy to say that we accommodated different learning styles, but I think if you're able to elaborate a bit more and give some examples, one would feel a bit more at ease. There's 161 students that deregistered in the year 2020. Do we have a sort of analysis of why they could have deregistered? Could funding possibly been a challenge to any of these students? Or could the students be struggling with mental health challenges? Or, have we been able to make an analysis of why the 161 students deregistered? Of course, I've lauded the great work that has been done by the institution with regards to ensuring a successful start to the academic year 2021. And I think that's about it, Chair. My last remarks were definitely a compliment or an acknowledgement of the work that the institution has done in terms of ensuring that we have a better start to the 2021 academic year. But sorry, I just saw one last concern that I had. I witnessed that your residences on campus, on the main campus, many of them had just a couple of maintenance challenges that I think we can work on. And I note that with COVID, the campus could not have been as occupied as it would generally be. Therefore, and noting that the campus is sort of open, at the back towards the residences, which allows for members of the community to walk in and out, and some people may take a door handle there, or take a window there, or whatever it may be. But I really think it's important that even though students aren't on campus, that we maintain the infrastructure of the institution, because they were coming back nonetheless. And I think that period, because the period of COVID, of which campus wasn't as occupied, could have given us the opportunity for us to work on some of the maintenance plans that we can't necessarily always work on when the institution is actually occupied. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I find out if Honorable Litsia is back on?
I'm back. I'm not sure for how long. This thing keeps going on and off.
Okay, just remain with your video off.
Yeah.
Try to quickly pose as many questions as possible. Yeah.
No, thanks. Thanks. I think I'm on the present or the intro by the chairperson of council. She introduced the register saying, when did the position of register?
Yeah, your connectivity is quite bad, Honorable Litsia. I suggest write all your questions on a chat. There's a chat option there on the platform. Yeah, you can put your questions there, because I think you're struggling now today, so that we can have them responded to, all of them. It's now almost 5 minutes past 11. We will break for about 5 minutes to allow the university to allocate the questions, who's going to speak to which question. And hopefully Honorable Litsia will have enough time to write all the questions on the chat option on the platform. And then 10 past 11, we are back. So the meeting is adjourned for about 5 minutes. We'll be back at 10 past 11. Thank you. Okay. I hope you are ready with the responses. I was trying to see if there is anything. It looks like there's nothing from Honorable Litsie.
Chair.
Honorable Chair. Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, it's Honorable Manani. So Honorable Litsi has actually sent me his questions. So I'm not sure if I can go through them.
Yeah, please do that.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Let me start by saying that some of the questions that were dealt with, of which it's comments. Honorable Litsi, I want to commend the leadership for ensuring that they issue out laptops to students for who are the first years, and it's commendable on the basis that they are adhering to the issue of students not being left behind. And the other point that he wanted to speak on is the issue of leadership ensuring that there's the stability in the institution. And Chairperson, in terms of his question, one is that he wants to know that the chairperson of council introduced the register as acting. When did the position of the register become vacant? What processes have been put in place to fill the post on a substantive basis? Number two, it's whether the university has experienced infrastructure development projects being delayed prior COVID-19. If so, what caused the delays? Number three, whether the university had ever experienced the business forum and local communities demanding subcontracts from the infrastructure projects, and how did you deal with that? Number four, were there any infrastructure projects that were abandoned by contractors, and why? Whether NSFAS owes the university outstanding payment for 2020 academic year? If so, how much? Those were the questions from Honorable Litsie, and others were comment. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah, you forgot the last one. Why is there no recognized union at the university? I think
okay. All right.
All right, those are the questions from all the members. I'm going to now afford the university an opportunity to respond to the questions. If there's anything from the SRC, we will also afford the SRC an opportunity to comment.
What you see, Chairperson, in this university is a reflection of a collective management and council that takes refuge in collaborations and partnerships that has assisted us to be able to move forward. That is why we have the SRC, the students like these ones, and the management and employees that we have. But I must say that it has not been easy. But fast forward to the questions. On the issue of gender representation, I must say that understanding the composition of the council, where you have external appointees, ministerial appointees, and those that represent the management, it is not that easy to ensure that a balance is created in terms of gender. But what we have now is 44% of the university council members being women, because and that will mean 56% are men, which is not showing a balance, but it is also not that bad, and we will make sure that in future we try. But secondly, I must indicate, Honorable Chairperson, that Out of the 4 deans that the university has, 75%, which is 3 out of 4, are women, and that is some form of progress in attending to gender balance. Also, one issue that I want to have a bite on is on the institutional audit, the special institutional audit by CHE. And I must indicate that the university had an administrator, and the recommendations by CHE were 17. In our report, we did indicate, Honorable Chairperson, that last year in March, CHE was able to write to the university indicating that they've now reached an agreement that the University of Zululand is taken out of that arrangement because the university has been able to implement all the recommendations. And I want to indicate and emphasize that only 2 issues were highlighted to be outstanding issues that the university is advised to work on. Is the issue of the SRC and is the issue of the SRC as well as the infrastructure, which are the 2 issues that will be responded to give progress or developments in trying to attend to those. Without getting deeper, Honorable Chairperson, on the issue of the recognition of the union, the relevant director will come in, but I do want to indicate that as we are the council that believes in ensuring that there's inclusivity and that workers are represented, unfortunately, in as much as we would love to have that situation, in this country, there are laws that must be respected. The Labor Relations Act, which guides how unions get recognized in institutions, despite your willingness to do so, but there are those prescripts and statutes that must be followed. But I'm saying the relevant director will come in and give reasons why, because the question was saying, why don't we have a union that is recognized in the institution? So for me, Chairperson, that is it that I wanted to respond to in terms of the questions that we received from the honorable members. Then Mr. Ngobo, so that you conclude on this one. Employment.
Good day, Honorable Chair and Honorable members of the committee. Just to finish off where the Chairperson left the issue of women representation at different levels, I would like to assure the committee that we take employment equity in this university quite seriously. We use the economically active of the KZN province to gauge how far we are progressing at all different levels. I'm really quite pleased to report that even in terms of the suggested targets for the higher education sector by the Department of Employment and Labor, at the top 4 levels within the university, we've actually already exceeded all those targets. As far as our own employment equity policy and plan is concerned, which we started 3 years ago, we're actually now sitting at 50% at the top level. That's the Vice Chancellor and the Deputy Vice Chancellors. The other 2 levels, which is professionally qualified and specialist, and also the skilled level, we've already achieved our targets, which for women are based on the 48% for the economically active population. The area where we're still struggling a bit is the senior level, but we also believe that we're going to catch up there very soon. I think the question is, why are we struggling, perhaps in that area? And the reason is because the higher education sector, it's a very competitive market. We have 3 universities, for instance, within the KZN, and we all compete for the senior people. So what are we doing? We've really launched seriously into leadership development programs, particularly for women. And we've already run 3 since 17, 18, 19, in fact 20, including 2020. We are running another one again this year. Because we believe that whilst we may be complying overall at different levels, there may be pockets within the different levels where we are struggling. And therefore succession planning is going to be key. I think that's where I'll leave it for employment equity. As far as the union representation is concerned, actually we do have a union at the University of Zululand. It's just that it's not recognized because it has not, the membership does not qualify to even be representative at a sufficiently representative level. Forget the majority, which is the 50+1. And the union officials are trying to recruit the members. We did have a recognition agreement. It expired in 2018. And since then, some of the members resigned at the time, and they've been really struggling to recruit enough people so that the union could be sufficiently representative for us to start a process to negotiate a recognition agreement. Thank you.
Okay, can you please be a bit more detailed with your comments, with your responses to this issue of the...
My questions relate to programs, which is a nursing program, and the coding in the nursing program. We actually don't have a problem there. I think it's referring to the old program, which was BCare. We've got pipeline students. We are phasing out that program. We started the process of accreditation for Bachelor of Nursing. We're waiting for the feedback from Src, so we don't have a problem there. I can confirm that we're going ahead with the offering of engineering programs in 2021. That is BN electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. And when I last checked the statistics of registration, we had 40 students registered for electrical engineering, and we had 27 for mechanical engineering. The plan is to take 50 per program for 2021. We'll increase the numbers later, but we're on track, so we're offering that. I would like to also confirm that all qualifications at the University of Zululand are approved by DHET. They are accredited by CHE and professional bodies, and they are registered with SAQA ID. So all programs have followed the normal route that needs to be followed. Deregistration of 161 students. We brought that issue to show that it's not out of the norm. If you look at the trend in previous years, we just brought that issue to emphasize the fact that we didn't have students that deregistered in large numbers because of COVID or our failure to provide what was required. We may need to go and probe, but nobody has reported from those students that they were deregistering because the university was not supporting them. It's just a normal thing that happens every year in every university. A small number of students deregister. We'll move to questions on.
Okay. Do you guys...
I'm going to tackle the question on the...
Is there any
scandal around qualifications that are for sale and students' marks? I think to answer this question, ever since I've been at the University of Zululand,
Okay, we seem to be having a problem with the University of Zululand. They are speaking to themselves. They don't hear what we're saying. Now, they have put up a good system there of hybrid model, but this hybrid model lacks, it's not interactive. To a point where they are now speaking to themselves now. They can't hear what we say.
Okay.
When we want to emphasize certain points, they can't hear. So I need to find out if, are you able to hear what I'm saying?
Yes, Chairperson, we are able to hear you.
Yeah, the problem with your system is that it's not interactive. And it gets very frustrating when we want to talk to you and we are not able to get through to you. And you keep on talking and you're talking to yourselves there. We'll get very frustrated here. I wanted to ask a follow-up question on the issue of recognition of unions. And the gentleman who was speaking there was just going on and he finished and he gave the mic to somebody else. That's not how we're supposed to do our things. You must listen to what we are saying when we do follow-up and respond accordingly. Now you are in a room there speaking to yourself, you are detached from us, and now it's not proper. Let's go back to the issue of the unions. Can you provide a bit more details? We talk about sufficient representativity and majority, and there was a recognition agreement that was signed and it lapsed. So can you provide us with the details of what is required to have sufficient representativity in terms of the numbers? And what was the recognition agreement saying in the past? And what union is that?
Thank you, Chair. Am I now audible?
Yes, you are audible. The problem is not being audible. The problem is that when we interject, you are not able to hear what we say. That's a problem. But go ahead now.
Chairperson, the situation at the moment.
We can hear you.
The situation union recognition at the moment is that we used to have a recognition agreement which expired. After the recognition agreement expired, it also coincided with a strike which was taking place at the university. Because of the length of the strike, also some of the members of the union actually resigned from the union. So now we had two things. We had a recognition agreement that had expired, and for it to be renewed or for the negotiations to take place, the union had to have membership. And it didn't have membership. It actually dropped down, which in the recognition agreement was 50 plus 1% to achieve the majority, so that there could be negotiations for recognition. The union then had to start all over again to recruit enough members to be in a position where it can engage with management to negotiate a recognition agreement. And that is what has not, that is where the union has not succeeded in the past few years. Eventually, the matter went to the CCMA, where it was resolved on the basis that the union must then be granted the basic organizational rights, which simply means they can recruit, they can represent their members in issues of, say, discipline or grievances, but they do not have the right to participate in collective bargaining. Right now, the membership of the union stands at about 11% out of 1,100 employees. That is 11%. That is not considered even to be sufficiently representative to engage on at a bargaining level with the employer, which is somewhere around 25–30%. The majority is even higher, because the majority then must have a membership of 50 plus 1%. Then you have the majority to collectively bargain across the board. Those are the details I think I can provide, unless there is more that would be required.
Okay. No, I think maybe give us a report, because we seem not to be understanding each other. I wanted the details. When was the recognition agreement entered into? When did it expire? You have spoken to the percentage in terms of the membership of the union. You didn't mention the name of the union as I've asked. So I think we seem not to be understanding each other. I think the best thing to do now is to ask that you give us a report on the history of the recognition of the union, a full detailed report, and you send it to us after this engagement in the next 7 days. I think that will be better because you'll sit down and then you'll get all your information, all your facts in order, including what is the basis for that, what law are you relying on, and so forth. And then you send us that report. Okay. Can we then go through the questions?
In terms of the Honourable Chair, in terms of the financial questions. So, Chair, as you've seen from the presentation, that we deal with the poorest of the poor of the students. So 90% of our students are funded. So our thinking around the fact to allow students to register with debt, we are only allowing confirmed 2021 funded students. So that means the students' 2021 fees will be covered by a funder. And that means we will not be in a worse off position at the end of the year than we are right now if we allow that student to register. The student has confirmed funding. Chair, the outstanding debt as at the end of 2020 was 198 million rand, of which NSFAS still owes us 156 million. This includes some of the funds that they still owe us for the extended financial year and the additional allowances that we had to pay to students. And so, Chair, that we then have that payment plan arrangement in place for students that fall in that 10% of non-funded students or self-funded students, where students have the opportunity to enter into some agreement with the university of how they are going to pay or settle their fees. And then, Chair, in terms of the question about the budget shortfall and the issues that might arise in the future, we had severe pressure this year to balance the budget due to the 0%. We had a few scenarios, but one of our scenarios was the possibility that there would be a 0% increase in the block grant. So that was already a challenge to balance the budget. If there's going to be more cuts or cuts to the block grant subsidy in future, there will definitely be serious challenges in the university in terms of operational and staff budgets. Thank you, Honourable.
Okay. That's with the financial issues. Who's next? Are we done with the responses?
Good morning, Chair, and your honorable colleagues. I'll respond to the issue relating to off-campus service providers. As the VC had mentioned, and the students have also confirmed, the most obvious thing is that no institution in the world is able to provide accommodation for its students. And our location makes it very difficult in a sense of the number of alternatives. And as a result, our students rely not only on the university, but also on what we refer to off-campus private residence providers. And students have always complained that the condition under which they stay in off-campus residences, which we have little control over, are not good for human habitation. But what the Department of Higher Education has done through the Minister's intervention was to come up with standards in terms of conditions that they as a department and us would try to encourage off-campus residence providers. The university has held workshops in terms of assisting the off-campus residence providers with how they could actually be accredited using both the template and conditions that have been set at the national level. And through that workshop, we have actually made sure that those providers meet the standards. And if they don't meet the standards, they do not get into any form of relationship with the university. But our approach was also a developmental one, to say those, even though you may have certain standards, the providers had to indicate how they're going to meet certain standards that they had been found wanting in. And part of it was also to try to ensure that the providers also see themselves as part of the university and as also people who are invested in the university. And that has been positive. Some providers have actually even gone to the banks to try to improve. But if you don't meet our standards, as per instruction from the Department of Higher Education and the Minister, we will not provide any accreditation. So only those who are accredited are the ones that are going to or are having a relationship with the university. And most of them would be housing students who are qualifying, which would be NSFAS students. But we are committed to ensuring that we broaden that space, but we see it also as an investment so that people see the university as their own. And that's as far as maybe I can respond to that question. But it is an ongoing engagement between us and the private providers.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Can we move? Who's supposed to come? There's questions around infrastructure. Maybe let's get into that.
What projects we are embarking on. The majority of the projects that you saw are those that were earmarking to implement in 2021 going forward. But in reality, we have a long list of projects that will take us, in our estimate, at least 10 years to undertake and complete. And these are projects in various categories, such as your student accommodation, your lecture halls, your academic buildings and offices, your laboratories, and many other associated infrastructure that supports the core business of the university. So since about 2017, 2018, the university has been working very closely with the Department of Higher Education and Training. That's the time around which the macro infrastructure framework was introduced. A framework that allows the university and the Department of Higher Education to work with some level of certainty about what the long-term vision and the plan for infrastructure is. And key to that macro infrastructure framework is what I spoke about earlier, the spatial development vision for the university, which is a precondition for funding of various projects. And that spatial vision gives certainty about what projects to do now and what projects to do in the future. It allows for some element of predictability about what the costing is and what level of support and funding you expect to receive from the Department of Higher Education in the long term. But before that, the university relied on, submitting business plans to request funding, from the department. And often that was, without certainty because it was based on a non-standardized approach. And the MIF process that I'm speaking about here, it's not just a University of Zululand process or framework. It applies across the sector. So the introduction thereof was really an opportunity to bring about certainty across the board so that as universities are funded, there is certainty about what processes to follow and they're understood by all, and funding and reporting and accountability sort of comes in at a level of certainty with standards that are understood by everyone, adhered to, and facilitating the ability to report accurately in the utilization of government funding. So before that time as well, you know, there would have been projects that were attempted but could not be completed because, you know, there were challenges about their estimation, you know, supply chain related issues that were not really sufficiently clear and understood. Around about 2014, when, you know, the two new universities were constructed in Mpumalanga and Solplaki in Northern Cape, the Department of Higher Education really introduced this measure of, you know, standardizing the sector across. So it's around that time that, you know, this framework actually came into being. And ultimately at the University of Zululand level, when we adopted the spatial vision in 2017, we're able to see how all of these projects, even those that were attempted in the past, could be brought into the picture for packaging and alignment with the vision so that, you know, the streamlining for purposes of reporting and accountability is sorted out. So some of these projects are contained in our master project list that I spoke about. So in funding cycles that go as far back as 2014, you'd find some of these projects which are now being packaged anew, aligned to the framework as introduced by the Department of Higher Education and Training that allows us to complete them. Others would have been completed by now, of course, but, you know, the few that remain do need to be finished as well. And we are following the modernized approach. The framework, as you know, recently introduced, as I indicated, allows us to be able to bring these projects to completion without really delaying, you know, processes. And you'll find that the student accommodation package, which I also highlighted, really comes as far back as 2014. And it's one that we're targeting to complete as priority because there's adequate funding available and plans are complete. We're now ready to roll it out and complete it with many others that have been earmarked since 2014 and to date, and others that are new, all prioritized on the basis of availability of funding, which we are able to guarantee and say these projects will be done and completed because funding has been ascertained. Thank you.
Okay, can I make a follow-up on the issue of infrastructure? I think the sense that we wanted to get was whether currently are the projects in the university that have long been commenced with and they have not been completed as per the schedule, and if yes, which project are those and when did they start commencing and when are they going to be completed? So we just want to get a sense of how is the project management at the university, whether they are abandoned projects. Quite often we get to experience a situation in a number of universities, projects get abandoned and then they get resuscitated, and it costs a lot of money to do that. But it's fine if you are not ready with all the information. I will suggest that let that also be part of the report that we will get after this engagement. We've asked for the union ones. We can also add this one as well, so that we're able to get a sense of what.
Can I say something about that specifically?
Okay.
I can confirm here that we really don't have what would be called abandoned projects. You know, we don't have such. There may have been delays, but, you know, there's no project that was started and stopped along the way. So we're really beginning in earnest in this phase to attend to all projects, some dating as far back as I indicated, but never really started necessarily, but now prioritized for completion because we have, you know, a plan to undertake all of them and complete them as planned. But
okay, no, I think that's help. But still, if you can just prepare something for us and then send it to us after this engagement. Who's next?
Next is the Vice Chancellor responding to the question on the qualifications that has been perceived to have been on sale at the University of Zululand. Chair, just to give a background point, as the honorable member has already alluded to, that even himself, when he was in this region, this has been something that has been flagged in newspapers. I can confirm, Chair, that during my tenure, we took a decision because this was worrying, particularly around the integrity of any institution. If you are perceived to be selling degrees and also marks for sex, those are things that cannot be tolerated in higher education, specifically with what the students have already said, that their own lives were also at stake because of these things. So in 2011, between 2011 and 2013, before my time, the then appointed administrator for the University of Zululand, Professor De Beer, was given this task as one of the main tasks that he needed to unearth at the University of Zululand and find out what was really happening with regards to these qualifications. What he left was the fact that all these so-called degrees for sale were actually desktop exercise. Even DHED, in later years during my time, came up with a report that there were people, particularly in the areas of Pretoria, that were carrying University of Zululand certificates and getting jobs, even at the department level. However, when we went back to the system, because what was important for us as an institution is to see whether there is interference, as Professor De Beer alluded to, in terms of the system itself. We learned that these were all desktop, and that any university could have been in that fashion. However, we had staff members that we had to deal with that were actually sitting at the university and were actually putting together these certificates, but they were not in the system. So if you are investigating a fraud issue around the qualification, you wouldn't find the person whose qualification is printed on a university apartment as University of Zululand certificate. And since then, we've worked with the registrar to ensure that there's a new, like you do with money, that you cannot never even try to imitate a certificate at the University of Zululand. We then, in 2018, during my tenure, were dealing with this issue, and we had to deal with a certain group of people that resulted in a big strike at the University of Zululand, because the search for marks, I must say, I can confirm that there were colleagues that we had to deal with that were using students, and for students to get the marks, they had to do certain activities with those male academics. We dealt with that, and because I was dealing with this debt, indeed, everything else that is said by the university actually transpired from that, because it was a certain group and a certain community that was busy doing this thing at the University of Zululand. Then they were seen as being targeted because they belong to a certain organization, and that was not true. So I'm happy to answer that question. On search for marks, yes, I found that to be true. And all reported cases by the students were dealt with, and that is what I can say to put that on hold. Chair, I'm going to pause so that if there's a question on this, I do not move to the next question. Thank you very much.
I think we have answered that one, VC. You can move to the next one.
Very much. The next question that I would like to respond to is a question that was asked on around the delivery of materials. Just to give confidence to the portfolio committee, yes, there were challenges. And one of the challenges we had was that even those students were given a notice well in time to say, we are coming to your area, the academics did that. We are coming to your area on this date, we will be at a police station X, please come and take your material. Materials were packed by our administrators well in advance and making sure that all areas are covered for each student. It was a hard and a very expensive task. One, the fact that a student could be registered for 6 modules in a semester, and for all those modules to be put together for that student to be assisted. What our academics learned and reported back was the first round they went to these areas, the response from students was very, very low. And the lecturers then came back and requested that, because now students are seeing that the others have got the material, they requested that we do another round, which we did. So yes, it had challenges, but I think at the end of the day, the whole issue was to save their lives and to save the academic year, which I think, and also the honorable members have recognized that we did that just so well. Chair, I'm going to pause there. If that question is answered again, I will move to the other one that I would like to take on.
Yeah, it's fine, VC. You can move to the next one.
Thank you, Chairperson. The staff issue and e-learning and whether there is a threat on staff members. You know, at the beginning of the 4th Industrial Revolution, there was so much talk, Chair, around the issues of teachers as to whether teachers can be replaced with robotics and robots. And I find in higher learning, higher education institutions, that in fact, the more we move on to this multimodal, the more I believe we need more staff members. So for me, where I'm seated, I see no threat on staff members. But there was also a question that links to that with regards to what is owned to the university, whether is that a threat to the future appointment of academics and support staff. I think to a large extent, Chair, yes, but the manner in which Mr. du Plessis, who's our finance head, has looked and portrayed to us as management and council as to how far we are doing in terms of finances. I think if NSFAS, or let me say the ministry rather, is able to pay us what is being owned to us, is owed to us, I think we still have a healthy and a sustainable financial position as the university. But it all depends, because it's not only NSFAS that owes us, it's also students that are sitting as the students in the middle class that also owes the university. So we are depending on the dynamics of today and what the outcome is going to be at the end of it all. If I'm allowed to move, I will now refer to the question that was presented by Honorable Member Mkhatshwa. When she met with us, we took seriously her contribution to the issue of us integrating the administration as well as teaching and learning online. And one of the things that she contributed to us was whether we could make sure that in terms of the portal, student information, whether it's their results or their biographical information and everything, can all be accessed at the same time. We have worked closely with our ICT and we conveyed the advice that was given to us. And ever since then, that is work in progress that the ICT is busy dealing with. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, are we done?
Elections.
Thank you, Chair. Two aspects I'll address quickly. The first question was on the alteration of marks and we have any processes in place for that. I can perhaps maybe just unpack that by stating the following, Chair. Prior to the multimodal online learning systems that we implemented, the traditional processes that we had to process examination marks is that staff members would, academic staff would mark the exam question papers. They will generate what we call an answer sheet, which has all the marks for a particular module of that student, the test marks, assessment marks, assignment marks, etc., which then culminates into a year mark or DP mark, an examination mark, and then a final mark that will be entered onto the system. The onus is on that academic to ensure that that final mark is uploaded on the ITS integrated that we utilize. Once that is done, and prior to that being done, the faculty examination committee is convened where these spreadsheets are discussed and scrutinized to eliminate any mistakes or anything of that sort, any arithmetical calculating mistakes, whatever the case may be. Those marks are then approved at that faculty subcommittee. Thereafter, those marks are entered on our ITS system. The examination department under the registrar's office then calls for the spreadsheet from the lecturers, the respective academics. We then draw out a printout of the ITS marks and do a comparison and a verification of those marks to ensure that despite all of that, there was no human error, and we eliminate any human error. Once that is confirmed, then the official results are issued. With the advent of now utilizing Moodle as our learning management system, the Moodle process also incorporates and has certain functions that makes the assessment process much easier for academics. For example, if an assessment is based on a multiple choice questions platform or setup, then Moodle can be not programmed, but can be configured to conduct the marking automatically. And there are various other types of questions that Moodle can generate the marks automatically. Nevertheless, the requirement to have a mark spreadsheet is still there that the lecturers will produce. The marks nevertheless still go before a faculty exam committee meeting that is approved, and the examination department in the registrar's office will then download the data from Moodle, do a comparison against the official results are issued. So to answer the question, we are very confident that the opportunity to alter marks has been substantially eliminated, particularly in light of the fact that with the system that we're utilizing with ITS, ITS has a time stamp. Every user that logs onto ITS, even if you print a sheet from ITS, it is logged, so that any alteration of marks, the logging of that individual who will alter the marks will be detected. If I may then move on to the next question, Chair.
Yeah, you can move on.
Thank you so much. The question then was with regard to the SRC elections. Honorable Mkhatshwa indicated that the present representatives of the SRC were from the interim SRC, and she just wants confirmation as, in fact, are they the new elected SRC? Perhaps just to, without just answering that question at the outset, I just want to just perhaps just put a little bit of background to the circumstances. We at the University of Zululand has embarked on what we consider a landmark achievement. Was we had our first ever online electronic SRC election. And we had a successful SRC election on the 3rd of December. However, after the results were generated, the objections to results, some of the objections that were received by the elections committee was that there might have been a voter fraud being perpetrated by individuals outside of the SRC, outside of the university. And so this was, the elections committee thought it was serious enough to report that to the university. Council considered that and took a decision that instead of we must investigate the extent of this voter fraud. So a decision was taken at council to suspend the announcement of the results, and then instructed the university to engage with an independent investigator to investigate whether in fact there might have been some form of voter fraud that would have impacted on the results of the SRC elections. So that is in essence the status quo. The investigations, as I understand, is almost complete. We are expecting a report from the investigators. The outcome of that report will be submitted back to council at council's next meeting, we anticipate, which is scheduled for the 30th of March. And thereafter, depending on the outcome of that report, direction will be taken from council in respect of the announcement of the results and then the inauguration of the new SRC or not. So to answer the question, the members present before you are from the interim SRC, because their powers were extended by council at the last meeting when council required that the results be suspended. And it's not the newly elected SRC yet, as those results have not been officially released. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other response outstanding?
I will respond to one of the questions about the flexibility of as one of our principles, which underpinned our assessment strategies. That was asked by, I think, by Honorable Mkachwa. And I would like to respond in this way that from the beginning, I think our Vice Chancellor indicated that the university employed a multimodal approach to teaching and learning at the start of COVID-19, that is during lockdown. So there is a very close relationship between multimodality and flexibility. So we had to ensure that we employ flexible ways of ensuring that all our students get access in terms of the exams. And also bearing in mind that students learn differently. And I think that is exactly what we wanted to do to ensure that all our students' capabilities are taken care of. Because with online teaching and learning, with the shift from traditional way of teaching to online way of teaching, it might occur in different ways, synchronously. I always fail to pronounce that word very well. Synchronously and asynchronously. Am I right? Yes. So what happens is that students were given a chance by giving them a chance to do their work online at the same time and be given a space to do it online and offline. So in that way, the assessments had to be in sync with our thinking of multimodality. Hence, we referred to in our presentation to the various strategies that were employed, like for example, fully online, take-home exams, video presentations that were uploaded by the students, as well as practical ways of assessments and laboratory-based assessments. So in that way, if you look at what the various strategies that we employed, they were able to accommodate all the different learning styles, because some students, perform better when they have to read and write, whereas others perform better when they have to do things practically. So it is on that basis then that we thought that one of our principles that should apply towards our assessment should be flexibility. That is in line with our multimodal teaching and learning approach. The two go together, flexibility and multimodality. Can I pause there before I respond to the second one about the academics experiences?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Well, with regard to the experiences of our academics, particularly towards continuous assessment, has been positive thus far. You will remember that in our presentation, we mentioned that we followed some various forms of assessment that included peer assessments, group assessments, and so on, and individual assessments. And those assessments were designed by the different lecturers in the different faculties, right? So in that way, they knew what to expect from the students. They knew what to assess, what learning outcomes they were assessing. So in that way, both our academics, when they designed all these forms of assessment, that is the continuous assessment, they had to take into consideration what learning outcomes they wanted to achieve. So in that way, we haven't had or we haven't received any issues or any negative reports from academics regarding the continuous assessment form of teaching and learning.
Okay. Maybe we should move towards wrapping up now.
Thank you, Chair. There was a question that was asked on the dropout rate. The question was why UniZulu has a low dropout rate. I'm going to answer this question from the teaching and learning perspective. I believe that we have a very strong student support structure on campus, which is led by the Teaching and Learning Center. We have various programs such as the tutorial programs, we have the mentorship programs, we have the programs for first entrance F10s students, and also the writing center. On all these structures actually address the challenges students may have during teaching and learning. And also in the office of the Dean of Students, we have the psychologists, a psychologist that attend to psychosocial problems of students. So we try to make all these structures available so that students are supported fully. Also, there is a pastoral care unit that we have just established. That unit actually gives pastoral care support to students who are the victims of gender-based violence. So with these structures, we are trying to address some challenges that might be the cause of students to drop out from the university. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we conclude now? Can we have the chairperson of council giving us the concluding remarks?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I believe that we've been able to give you that overview of how things are unfolding in the university, with the main intention of ensuring that the university does deliver in terms of its strategic plans and strategic objectives, but also ensuring that in all that we comply with all the laws and policies that are existing. We really appreciate, Chairperson. I want to emphasize the importance of this meeting for us. The questions that have been asked, they are also eye-opening on our side, both the management and council, and where there are gaps, we'll be able to come together because that is our strength. I must say that all that is assisting us to work together as this collective is our motto, the motto of the university, my UniZulu, your UniZulu, our UniZulu. That is where we draw our strength, and we do promise the Honorable Chairperson that we will continue to implement in line with the work that is and the mandate that is given to this university. But most importantly for ourselves and myself as chairperson of council is to ensure that the council does not interfere with operational mandates which are given to the management of the university, because if that can be allowed in future, when you meet us, you will not be able to get a report of this nature, because we will be deep in conflicts because we fail to understand our mandate as council. We do want to thank Chairperson yourselves as the team led by you, and also thank Dr. Kaniki and my deputy chairperson were part of this meeting. I also want to thank our students, the SRC representatives that have joined this meeting. With that, Chairperson, thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, the Chairperson of Council. I think it has been a very good engagement, a very productive one. We have asked questions, and we have also asked that certain reports should be provided to us, particularly those two on the on the recognition of the unions, the history thereof, and the current situation, as well as the infrastructure projects, just an overview and a bit more of details about the projects that we are currently implementing, and if there's been any changes from when they were approved up to now. Would really appreciate that. I think in the overall, and I think it's an issue that members have raised, that the leadership of the university, council and management, you did come prepared for this engagement with ourselves. And the sense that we get is that you are properly organized. And would like to thank you for that. At the end of you know, as we start with the 2021 academic year, we have said it when we engage with the department that we really need to draw experiences from what happened in the 2020 academic year, and what has been the trend, where are the areas where we can improve, what are the best practices that we can learn from in saving the 2020 academic year as we move towards the 2021 academic year. And I think that with what we have received now as a presentation and information from UniZulu, I think there is a lot that other institutions can learn from in terms of the implementation of that multimodal system of learning and teaching. I mean, the manner in which the university packaged the learning material and distributed them to the students in all those areas, the drop-in points, I don't know what you call them. It's quite impressive if you look at it, because it required collective effort that everybody has to be involved in the packaging of the materials, in the distribution. And I mean, you're using the academic staff. It's not really part of their job description to drive around to go and drop out the materials, but they did participate in that. And I think that is one of the good stories that we can tell in examples that can be given of a university that employed everything possible to save the 2020 academic year. So we would have to have an engagement where we learn from these best experiences, because it really shows the level of determination, the level of hard work that went into that. And I think we must thank all the academic staff of the university. You You know, the primary reason why a university exists is an academic enterprise, is teaching and learning. That is the primary reason. Every other thing exists to support that. And the kind of effort that has been put there, I think it is quite impressive. We always give credit where it is due. And when it is time for us to be hard on whoever, we do become hard, justifiably so, because our interest is to make sure that the system operates in a very efficient way, operates in a way that is conducive for the students to learn. So that's why we exist. That's why all of you in that room exist. You exist to facilitate this academic enterprise. You exist to make sure that you provide this public service in educating our students. But otherwise, I think it has been a very good engagement. As soon as Council has considered that report on the election of the Student Representative Council, would like to also to be taken on board, to be given the heads up as to what has happened, whether there was anything wrong with the voting mechanisms that we put in place, whether the elections were free and fair. As you